All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the story behind something we've all done, probably without even thinking about it. Taking our shoes off at the airport.
You know the scene, right? You're in that long security line, you're juggling your carry-on, your passport, your ticket, and then you get to the front and it's time for that familiar, awkward shuffle as you bend down to untie your shoes.
I mean, for more than 2 decades now, this has just been normal. It's this weird shared ritual for millions of us travelers, that collective sighs we all stand around in our socks.
But have you ever really stopped to think about it? Why do we do this? Where did this rule even come from? And maybe the biggest question of all, was it actually making our flights any safer? To get the answer, we have to go back in time.
It is honestly kind of wild to think about now, but before 9/11, airport security was a whole different world. You could show up right before your flight, walk through with your shoes on, and get this, you could even bring small knives on the plane. But after the attacks that September, everything changed. The TSA was created, and a whole new rulebook for air travel was written overnight.
But here's the twist, the thing most people don't realize. The whole shoe removal thing, it wasn't actually because of 9/11. The real reason is another terrifying flight that happened a few months later, the one that gave us the infamous name, the shoe bomber.
And if you look at this timeline, you can really see the chain reaction. 9/11 happens, the TSA is born, and just 3 months later, this new threat pops up, forcing security officials to react. What started as just a suggestion to check shoes eventually became a mandatory, non-negotiable rule for every single passenger by 2006.
So who was this guy? Meet Richard Reid. He was a British citizen, a petty criminal who converted to Islam while in prison. He got radicalized and eventually ended up training with Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. So here's what went down. On that flight, he tried to light a fuse connected to a powerful bomb hidden in the sole of his shoe. The only reason it failed was because of a vigilant flight attendant who smelled smoke, the quick action of other passengers who tackled him, and just plain dumb luck. It had been raining, and his sweat and the damp weather had made the fuse too wet to ignite.
Reid ended up with 3 life sentences. At his trial, he was completely defiant, proudly calling himself a soldier and an enemy of the U.S. But the judge was having none of it. He told Reid he was a terrorist, not a soldier, and then delivered this absolutely chilling final line.
You can just imagine the panic this caused, right? Reid's attempt, even though it failed, sent this massive shockwave across the entire world of aviation. The reaction was immediate, and it completely changed the airport security experience for all of us.
And we've all felt it. Just look at this 2018 study on how people feel going through security. The #1 emotion, by a long shot? Frustration. Almost half of all passengers reported feeling it.
And we're not talking about just being a little annoyed here. This is some serious stress. A study at Heathrow Airport found that passengers' anxiety levels were on par with what fighter pilots and riot police experience on the job. Let that sink in for a second. That is absolutely insane. So, all this frustration, all this stress and hassle, it really begs the question, doesn't it? Did taking off our shoes actually make us any safer? Or was it something else?
And this is where a lot of experts bring up this idea called security theater. It's a great term. It basically means putting measures in place that look like they're making you safe, that give you the feeling of security, but don't actually do much to reduce the real risk.
The argument here is pretty simple, right? It's reactive. It's like locking the barn door after the horse is already bolted. If you become obsessed with searching people's shoes, a determined attacker is just going to adapt and hide the bombs somewhere else.
And wow, the numbers on this are just unbelievable. The government's own investigators ran secret tests, trying to smuggle fake weapons and explosives past TSA screeners, and the reported failure rate was over 95%. Let that sink in. More than 95% of the time, the prohibited items got through.
Okay, so let's recap. We have a rule that's super stressful, is arguably not very effective, and it's all based on a single threat from way back in 2001. Something's got to give, right? So, what's next for the security checkpoint? So, is this rule going to be around forever? Well, maybe not. There's a lot of conversation that a major change is coming, maybe even as soon as 2025. It feels like we might finally be on the verge of seeing the end of this whole ritual.
And the big reason why this change might finally be possible is technology. They're developing some really cool stuff, like this special doormat that can literally scan for explosive residue, the exact same kind Reid used, all without anyone having to untie a single lace.
You see,
Getting rid of the shoe rule isn't just about making things a little faster. It's part of a bigger strategy to use smarter, more effective tech to keep things secure without all the hassle. And hey, for those of us with TSA PreCheck, don't worry, you'll still get to keep your belts on and your laptops in the bag.
It all kind of leaves us with this big, lingering question, doesn't it? The whole story of the shoe bomber is a perfect example of this constant push and pull we live with. As technology keeps getting smarter, we're always going to be asking ourselves, what's the right balance between staying safe and staying free?